When did overlanding become less about getting outside and more about Instagram? It's no secret that this hobby has exploded in recent years. Google searches have more than doubled for overlanding between 2019 to 2022, and events like Overland Expo have grown almost 600% in attendance from 2012 to 2022 in the last decade. But it does beg the question, are we really embracing the outdoors, or are we just selling a lifestyle?
This rapid growth isn't a bad thing on its own, but it's changed the way we approach the outdoors. I grew up in scouting, so I've been subject to the outdoors for a considerable amount of my life. Doing this taught me certain rules and skills for being in the outdoors. The most important, nature is not a comfy place.
Today, though, it seems that companies want to sell us the idea that nature can be as comfortable as being at home if we buy the right gear. I fell into this trap too, but my perspective has since changed. Over the last few years, when was 2019? 6 years ago? Oh God. Since 2019, companies have been trying to make this outdoor lifestyle easier for anyone to obtain. But rather than selling, say, more education on how to do this whole outdoor thing, they'd rather sell products to make you feel like you never left home in the first place. It defeats the whole point. There used to be a definitive gap between camping and glamping, which was the luxurious style of camping, but now there's so much more gear and so many more camping styles that the gap really isn't a gap anymore. It's kind of all melded together. One of my favorite things to talk about in that regard, rooftop tents.
Rooftop tents are one of the most popular products in overlanding, and I get the appeal. To get you off the ground, which can feel safer and more comfortable, but for me, the downsides outweigh the benefits. You lose the ability to quickly move your car if needed, and the setup and storage can be a hassle, especially in bad weather.
For some, it might be perfect, but for me, I don't need a rooftop tent to spend time in the outdoors. I'm fine with the setup that I have currently. And the other thing is, the rooftop tents are just so expensive. I could get a 3-person Gazelle ground tent for $300, or I could, for the same amount of tent, for a rooftop tent, it would cost me like $2,000 or more, depending on what I wanted. I think there are a lot of more innovative products out there, like my fire can from Ignite. This fire can might not look like much, but it actually has a lot of good benefits and solves a lot of the issues that come with a traditional campfire. Traditional campfires don't burn well if the wood that you're using is wet from the rain. The fire can uses propane, so that's not an issue. There's a more major problem that the fire can solves as well. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, due to wildfires, a lot of times there will be wood fire bans for obvious reasons. Being that the fire can is run off propane, it is wood fire ban compliant. Do check though, depending on what level your fire ban is at, these might not be able to be used. Camp stoves and propane lanterns are still okay, but some ban levels do ban using things like the fire can, so keep that in mind. Do your research before you go out there.
Fire cans, collapsible camp furniture, camping fridges, and portable power stations are all great products that have innovated the camping and overlanding experience in some way. Rooftop tents, collapsible water jugs, as well as certain awnings and camp mattresses may seem enticing, but are not always necessary for camping.
And that's where I think some people stray away from the core rules of the outdoors, which is simplicity and necessity. You'll do just fine with a tent, a sleeping bag, a camp stove, a cooler for food, a container for water. And honestly, some people might even say that is more than you need. Do you really need a $50,000+ rig just to go remote camping somewhere out in the wilderness for a few times out of the year? No, probably not. If you do like a nomadic lifestyle, well, then that's very different. I would say a rooftop tent or one of those truck campers would be the perfect thing for someone in that sort of lifestyle. But for us who live in a house, do a 9 to 5 and go camping on the weekends, that stuff might not be as necessary as we think it is. I won't lie to you though, I fell into that trap myself, and in fact, I think it's time to finally show you what's under this green tarp. This is my 2005 Subaru Forester. Not this one, this one.
The original plan was to convert this into the ultimate adventure camper because the adventure wagon was still my daily driver and I didn't want to make a permanent camping setup in my car. However, after a few months, I bought a new daily driver, my 2022 Forester Wilderness. I solved the problem of the adventure wagon as a daily driver, but in the complete opposite direction, by ending its purpose of being a daily driver. This meant the practicality of the camper build was effectively gone. All that was left was the cool factor, and I didn't really have the desire to sink money into the project just because it would make some cool content on YouTube. So I abandoned the camper project for good, after keeping some parts for myself, of course.
So then, if the plan is to not do the camper, what are we going to do instead? If it isn't obvious already, I'm going to be making the camp setup in the adventure wagon more permanent. Now that it isn't a daily driver anymore, I can do that. It is going to take a lot of work though, so expect to see a lot of progress over the next few months with some pretty interesting and unique projects that I have in the works. As for the camper car, I'm probably just going to sell it to a junkyard. It does have a bent valve, so no one can use it as a car anytime soon, and I hope to at least get the money I spent on it back. So I didn't really spend all that much to buy it. My new approach to these outdoor excursions is to use what I have and only buy things if it solves a problem that I'm having. I think this is a strategy that all overlanders need to adopt. I've been camping in the adventure wagon for a few years now, so I know what's missing and what needs to be improved upon. Problems that need to be solved. How do you feel about the way overlanding has evolved over the years? Do you think we've lost sight of the simplicity of the outdoors, or has it just been the natural evolution of the hobby? Let me know in the comments section down below. I would love to see your point of view. In the meantime, if you want to see how I built the adventure wagon up to this point, you can click right over there on that nice little playlist. Some good stuff. You should check it out.